Hello and welcome to our launch webinar for BS ISO IEC 42001-2023, the world's first AI management systems standard. We kindly welcome attendees from the UK and all over the world. My name is Gavin Jones and I lead the UK's AI and Quantum Standards Programme at BSI, the British Standards Institution, and will be moderating today's expert panel discussion on 42001. For some housekeeping, this is a listen-only webinar that is being recorded. We welcome questions via the Q&A function. If you experience technical difficulties, please submit your issue via the Q&A function. Upon completion of the feedback survey, BSI will send a link to the recording of the webinar in due course. This is a CPD registered webinar. Please request your certificate via the feedback survey following the webinar. There are over 200,000 businesses across the UK digital economy, where some 99.7% are SMEs, with 1.7 million employees who collectively contribute £150 billion to the UK economy, according to the UK government, March and May 2023. To help identify what problems the new 42001 standard can help solve for organisations interested in using AI, I'd like to introduce the following esteemed UK experts. Milan Patel is chair of BSI's AI Standardisation Committee Art1 and has held this role since inception in 2018. He was an active contributor to BS ISO IEC 42001 at ISO and continues to work on other formal standards to support responsible AI. Milan has an extensive history in standardisation. Adam Leon Smith is an AI standards expert and chair of the BCS Fellows Technical Advisory Group, that's a British Computing Society. In his capacity as consultant, he provides guidance on managing emerging technologies and is a board member of multiple innovative UK startups. Adam is also a project leader of AI standards on AI bias and quality and convenes the ISO IEC Joint Working Group on AI and testing. Abdelatif Benjaloun is the Senior Industry Standards Manager at Amazon Web Services in the Global Public Policy AI team. He is involved in AI standardization with ISO IEC Joint Technical Committee 1, Subcommittee 42 on AI and CEN-CENELEC Joint Technical Committee 21 also on AI, and sits on a number of groups working on AI policy and regulation. Pauline Nordstrom is founder of AI safety company Anacanta AI, specialized in impact and risk services for biometrics and high-risk AI. Her background is in industry, formerly as a board director of several technology organizations supplying into regulated and highly standardized sectors from aerospace and transportation to security. And finally, we have Jackie Taylor, starting from her original aerospace engineering background, is now a top 100 European angel funder, CEO of 2 AI safety tech companies, and UK, EU, G20 and UN AI expert advisor. Her company, Flying Binary, was shortlisted for a prestigious European Picasso Award based on an AI safety collaboration with the UK's Information Commissioning Office. So to get things rolling, we have a number of questions, and I'd like to direct the first question to Milan, if that's okay. What is AI 42001 about, and who is it written for?
Thank you very much, Gavin. Thank you all for joining us this morning for the launch of the highly anticipated standard, ISO IEC 42001 AI Management System, which I will abbreviate to AIMS as I go through this discussion. So what is 42001? So effectively, it's a standard that provides requirements and guidance for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and improving a management system for responsible AI. So essentially, it's a set of organizational and management processes that help achieve responsible AI objectives within an organization. So a management system for responsible AI, AIMS, helps to enable an organization to ensure that its AI systems are developed and used responsibly and are trustworthy. So this means that they're aligned with ethical principles, human rights and values, and that they are robust, reliable, secure and safe. However, the flexibility of AIMS allows the organization to define for itself what responsible means. and it can do this using a number of different signals. And we'll touch on those momentarily. The standard is structured in three essential parts. And so firstly, it's the requirements to implement processes that support an AIMS implementation. And these are essentially the same across all types of management system standards, thus allowing them to be integrated into an organization more efficiently. So, for example, you might already be conformant to ISO IEC 27001 for information security, and the management system structure allows you to then augment your organizational process to include responsible AI. Second is a reference control set and implementation guidance. And so these are technical and organizational measures that can be implemented to address and mitigate identified risks. And then finally, some additional information that is useful for identifying risk sources, organizational objectives, and for integrating AIMS with other management system standards. The requirements and guidance within the standard are flexible to adapt to your organization's particular context and its risks associated with using or developing AI systems. And so the context is quite a key aspect of the management system, and effectively defines the organization and includes the extent of the organization that is covered by the management system. So, for example, it could cover the entire organization or just the human resources department or a particular engineering group. It also defines what AI systems or services are also in scope of the AIMS as well. And it includes the role of the organization. So, for example, as a developer, user, or another type of stakeholder. And within the context, you also define things like external issues, which are, for example, applicable laws and regulations, and other aspects such as cultures and societal values. It also includes internal issues such as policies, business objectives, and governance objectives. And all of these can inform risk assessments and impact assessments that need to be carried out as part of the processes outlined in the document. So why is 42001 important? So effectively provides a comprehensive and systematic approach for managing trustworthy AI within an organization. And it allows for an organization to identify and assess the risks and opportunities associated with AI systems, establish and implement policies and processes for responsible AI, and then to monitor and continually improve processes, but also AI systems themselves as the organization learns from the outcomes and impacts of these AI systems and their use. One of the key aspects of 42001 is that it allows you to demonstrate accountability, your duty of care for your stakeholders, and transparency of AI systems as well. And it enhances trust and confidence amongst stakeholders in society. And so this enabler of trust between stakeholders helps to facilitate business. And one of the primary uses for AIMS would be, for example, supply chain management and ensuring a responsible AI approach across your supply chain. So certification based on 42001 is already under consideration. And effectively, third-party conformity assessment plays an essential role in demonstrating accountability and the organization's pursuit of responsible and safe development and use of AI systems. And so some of the benefits of implementing 42001 and demonstrating conformity to it are, for example, reduced costs of compliance, for example, enhance reputation and credibility of AI systems, and improved compliance and alignment with legal and ethical requirements. So who is it intended for? So really it's for any organization that's involved in the design, development, deployment, operation, or use of AI systems, regardless of their size, type, sector, or location. And so it's intended for any organization that provides products or services related to AI systems. And it's also worth mentioning that high-risk systems can potentially be developed by and be used by all types of organizations. And so even SMEs or micro-organizations will need to comply with regulation and demonstrate their due diligence to their stakeholders. So 42001 is applicable to supporting a responsible AI approach in using any type of AI system, regardless of its complexity, functionality, or purpose. And one of the key points of its relevancy is for effectively users across the entire AI lifecycle. Anyone involved in the development or use of the AI system across the lifecycle of planning, design, development, testing, deployment, operation, maintenance, for example, would have an interest in the standard and implementing its processes. And so by using 42001, users can ensure that they are following current good practices and standards for responsible AI, and that they're developing value and benefit to their organization and society. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
That's great, Milan. Thank you very much indeed for that, and for the all-important context as well. So as this is a management system standard, an MSS, can you tell us a little bit more about that aspect of its design and its risk-based framework? Adam, if you can start on that one, please. Thank you.
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Gavin. So management system standards essentially define requirements for management systems, as you would expect, but they're usually accompanied by extensive guidance material. There are some fantastic parts of 42001, and one of them is an annex all about objectives that you can set for your organization in the context of AI, which I've found really useful in talking to organizations, because it's all very well to say you should have objectives and a policy, but actually having reference material that you can use to develop something that's appropriate for the context and purpose of your organization is really, really useful. And if we look at other management system standards, there's often lots of other accompanying standards that provide additional guidance around particular topics, and that's true here as well. There's a whole ecosystem of AI standards developing in ISO IEC. But 42001 is really the entry point to that. It's about establishing the management system, identifying your context, your purpose, your policy, and your objectives, looking at your risks, and identifying the areas you really need to focus on. The other important thing about management system standards, as Milan was saying, is certification systems play an important part of the economy, because they engender trust in the supply chain. And this is the first ISO IEC AI standard that has really been designed for that kind of conformance and certification. Again, as you can see on the slide, management system standards have a high-level structure. That high-level structure was rolled out by ISO in 2012. And so the headings that you see under the management clauses in the middle box, you'll find in lots of different management system standards, which makes it easy to be consistent and compatible across all your needs, because many large organizations and small organizations need to develop compliance with multiple management system standards, such as 27001 for security alongside 42001 for AI. Touching on risk-based, though, again, as Milan said, the purpose and the context is key here. That's what scopes your AI management system and leads to you identifying both external and internal requirements and issues that your management system needs to support. And that's a crucial step. The reference control set that is, again, in an annex, provides a huge range of tools that you can apply in order to solve the issues that you identify in your first step, either externally or internally. And that's a very flexible structure. You have a set of high-level requirements that you must follow, but you have a lot of flexibility in determining how you're going to implement controls. And this is, my experience with doing that in information security has been very, very positive. As Gavin said, I work with a lot of SMEs, and that step of identifying what's really important, identifying what the real issues are, and then customizing the controls to be appropriate for the organization is very, very good for SMEs. I think perhaps not micro SMEs. If there's two of you, it might be slight overkill assessing the resources in your organization, but for most SMEs, this risk-based structure is very, very important. That doesn't mean that it is that doesn't in any way reduce the importance of the standard or the weight that it carries. I had a call with an organization last week who was looking at integrating ChatGPT into one of their consumer-facing products. And this goes back to really the scope of 42001, because it's not just about companies developing AI, it's about any company that is using AI as well. And I walked through the key requirements of 42001 with this company, and they immediately determined they didn't have the resources or the capability to implement AI in a responsible way, and they abandoned their plans to use AI in the way they were planning to. So 42001 is a really important standard. It is the entry point to all sorts of other work. It is risk-based and flexible. Yeah, I'd let some of the other panelists comment as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Adam. If we can move on now to Adela Teef, please. So how does the standard fit in with global regulation?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gavin. I think that a lot have been said by both Milan and Adam to set the scene and to show how the standard can help in regulation. But let me first set the scene here, also saying that there are 2 points here about your question. The first is generic and is about the relationship between AI standards or generally standards and regulation, and the second is specifically about the role of this ISO 40001 as a management system standard for the ongoing legislations. So with regard to the first point and how standards fits with global regulation, I would say that standards in general are the right tool to operationalize and implement regulations. And by using standards, we can also ensure some interoperability across different regional regulations, even though they have differences. And this is a very important point. And this is also the power of international standards developed through some consensus process and providing the right tools to operationalize trustworthiness. I'm talking here about AI specifically. So this having been said, the specific standard we are talking about, the ISO 40001, as the AI management system is a key and foundational standard for organizations to fulfill the regulation requirements. So as it was already mentioned, 40001 focus on both organizational requirements and controls that can be leveraged to manage risks for organizations as they develop high quality and trustworthy AI systems and products. So the set of controls and best practices can serve different regulatory frameworks as they specify full set of aspects generally tackled by global regulations. And just to give examples, I can mention here the fact that 40001 provides controls on AI and asks for the establishment for AI policy and its maintenance, setting and developing impact assessment to identify harms for AI end users, do some appropriate data management, and generally adopt responsible AI technology within the organization. So having said that as general also introduction on how 40001 can support regulations, and global regulation, I would like to give specific examples to get really to practical points and how this can be done. I believe the EU AI Act, the famous EU AI Act, it could be a very good example. You know that we are now at least on some political agreement that has been reached by the last year on the EU AI Act. So somehow we know about what will come and the requirement that will be coming from the EU AI Act. And related to the EU AI Act, there is a standardization request already issued by the European Commission that specify which standards will be needed in order to conform and comply with the EU AI Act. So within this standardization request, it is clearly mentioned that there is a need for quality management system. And this quality management system can largely be fulfilled by 40001. So this is one way to show that really 40001 responds to concrete need from specific and very important regulation. A second point also related to the EU AI Act is the fact that this standard can also fulfill the Article 9 of the EU AI Act on the establishment of a risk management system, as it provides requirements on risk management that can be utilized in combination with other standards. So talking also here about different standards fulfilling regulation, such as the 23984, to support in part conformity to the AI Act. So this is examples how to fulfill articles or requirements of the EU AI Act. But let me mention also very important and foundational aspects that already have been mentioned by Milan and Adam on the fact that this is a management system, and the management system will play a kind of an overarching role over other standards and other standardization requirements, like those about data quality and the governance, transparency, human oversight, or others like cybersecurity. So 40001 will be really playing a role of kind of horizontal platform to support other standards for the EU AI Act. So the EU AI Act, as I mentioned, is very important and something that will be coming soon, but it's not the only one in the world, since we are talking about global regulation, and there are different approaches across the world that have some intersections. And it's good, for example, to look on the UK, because here we are in the UK. We know that in the UK, we have adopted this pro-innovation approach described in the white paper that was issued by the government in last year. And within this paper, standardization in general and standards will play a key role. And there is very nice classification of the standards that will help there. And the 40001 will constitute kind of base layer and foundational standard for all regulator vertical sectors. So here again, it will play a very important role. So to summarize somehow, I would say that the adoption of 40001 by regulation will establish kind of model for reusable and scalable and lightweight regulatory approach that is aligned with standards conformance. And really, these standards will be the basis for interoperable standards informed regulatory framework. So this shows the importance and the interaction between globally standards, these management system standard, and global regulation. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Abdelatif. If we can now move on to more on the governance and policy decisions. So for Pauline, how does 42001 help clarify AI governance and policy decisions for organizations?
Yes, thank you very much, Gavin, and to my colleagues so far. So following on from the global regulation point, I think it's really important to emphasise that 42001 is a British and international standard, and it does encourage a common approach across a global organisation, which can reduce the risk and the management overhead in staying in line with that. leading nicely on from the EU AI Act, businesses may have been waiting for legislation and regulation, which for some regions, could be several years away. But currently, it does look like the EU AI Act will be the first to have an effect within 12 to 24 months. And this standard will lead towards compliance with the quality management requirements. In the meantime, the sector use case guides have developed and standards have emerged for specific high-risk AI, such as facial recognition software, but none cover the entire organization like a master plan. And indeed, any specialized AIs that require management under separate standards would fit nicely into that management framework. So 42001 helps organizations to create a central agreed point of reference for governance and accountability across the entire organization. But where do organizations start with this? And the most common question I'm asked by CEOs and senior leaders who do recognize that the strategy needs to sit with the top leadership is how to set policy. Now, boards may consider AI to be an IT issue, while AI may be run by the technical teams and leaders. It can actually become an active element of the organization. It's active and it's embedded in the human-machine relationship and cannot be readily separated. And it's for this reason the board may need to reframe its dialogue about AI within its organization. So the standard is for organizations developing or using any kind of AI, from classic AI. AI isn't just about ChatGPT. Classic AI creates forecasts, recommendations, predictions. We've probably all been using it for many years without realizing it. And of course, generative AI, which does include ChatGPT, image voice generation, the large language models, and there are other large language models other than ChatGPT, Bard, Llama, and of course, we might be talking about autonomous robots assisting the production line. So let's broaden our thinking about what AI actually is. So 42001 is a responsible AI management standard, just to emphasize that point. It's for responsible AI, and its focus is actually non-technical, although it does direct the user of the standard to common definitions, which are really important that we're on the same page in terms of defining AI. And the standard leads you towards the ISO IEC 22989 standard, which defines AI systems. And this is to ensure the organization can agree upon whether they're using or developing AI or not. And until now, some may say that the marketing of AI has resembled a Wild West of terms. It's been very difficult for buyers to determine risk. So responsible AI matters, and it creates transparency and trust between the stakeholders, and they may be the customers, the workforce, management, the board, buyers, users, the public. And if the organization adopts an agreed approach to risk and a consistent language for their AI systems, the functions in the organization can understand each other better and work in harmony to improve the company's ecosystem. So for the board, the standard provides a blueprint for setting policy, from defining the objectives of the AI systems, how they support business strategy, then further into the implementation, support, continual monitoring, improvement, and alignment with existing policies, such as security, privacy, HR, and so on. AI systems, system effects may redefine the business model in terms of what the people are doing, and therefore a clear route for governance and accountability is crucial to ensure AI augments human activity. So this standard will help to shake out and explain in business language the impact of the AI outputs, and importantly, the human's role in the decision-making process. And dependent on the context of the use of the AI, it can be imperative to ensure there's always a human in the loop who is educated to understand how the AI reached its decisions and confirms or challenges the decision with a basis and with the authority to act accordingly to prevent harm. And this standard creates the governance and accountability framework for that. So this standard will also help to define the emerging new relationships both internally and externally to the organisation for competitive advantage, to build trust, and in turn create a virtuous circle of use case and business growth. And that's for businesses who can embrace digitalisation, because without that, you can't have AI. And that may be in part, or it may be across the entire business ecosystem, no matter what size. So hopefully that gives you an insight into the governance and accountability strength of the standard. And on that note, I'll hand back to you, Gavin.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Pauline. The last question we have today before we go into audience questions, and thank you for those who've been able to submit questions to us. How does this AI standard help SMEs manage AI risks? Jackie, if you'd like to lead on that conversation, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Gavin. Well, my fellow panelists have outlined the framework, this high-level view of responsible AI, and that's the key to this standard for SMEs, and how any organisation can use its risk-based approach. According to Statistica, there are 333 million SMEs in the world, and I want to specifically address how 42001 can be used to manage risks for SMEs, whether it's related to creation or the use of AI. And just for clarity, for those that understand the distinction, I'm including micro SMEs as part of the umbrella term of SME in what I say today. There are some differences, obviously, but I think it's in terms of a level of detail beyond what we've got time to discuss today. Now, SMEs traditionally would not utilise management systems such as 42001 at launch. So why is this different? And I think that we all are aware of the impact AI has had across our organisations, our sectors, our nations even, since ChatGPT was launched in November 22. But 42001, it's not just about responsible development of AI, but it's about the deployment of it. It's about the usage of it. It's about the management of AI. And it's very much a start point for any organisations, but specifically for SMEs, as we see this adoption across the supply chains, of which an SME may be the lead of a supply chain, but may be embedded in it. And basically, you may use it. The way I would recommend, or the way I am recommending SMEs to use it, is to showcase your understanding of the risks of technology. To give you an example of that, responsible AI, if you can demonstrate what you're actually doing for this, and 42001 gives you many controls you could choose, you can actually build trust in what you're specifically doing, maybe you as an organisation, but also you as part of a supply chain. And that's the work that Flying Binary did with the UK's Information Commissioner's Office, when we showed that responsible AI can be demonstrated. And actually we did an additional thing, which is pull in the regulation for AI, both from the EU and the UK, and show how regulation was an enabler. This is a complex landscape, and 42001, in terms of showcasing your understanding of risk, is a way you demonstrate you understand that complexity, but more to the point that you show how you've dealt with it. What does it mean? And oftentimes with SMEs, when I'm consulting with them, I help them demonstrate to clients, show how that has enabled you to mitigate risks. So we look to the impact assessments or the AI assessments that they create, and show the risks that have been identified, and show what you've built or consumed in order to mitigate those risks. And 42001 will give you a wider look at that world and put you into that regulatory landscape that I mentioned before. But also policies are increasingly becoming important through the procurement supply chains as well. So many SMEs, I've helped them see how 42001 can formulate your AI policies. This is not something that would necessarily been done up front, and certainly not at the launch of a standard like this, but it has a huge value of SMEs to demonstrate that. And 42001 contains that framework, and you can do all of the above and you can do more, but specifically you can look at 42001 in your specific setting, in your specific use or creation of AI, in your sector or the clients you serve, and actually pick out of there how you've interpreted that. And that is of huge value. And effectively, that's what Flying Binary did and demonstrated well to be recommended for that prestigious Picasso Award that Gavin mentioned at the top. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions I've had about this, because obviously this is our launch today of 42001, but SMEs have been, I've been dialoguing with them and working with them in anticipation of this. And one of the questions I'm asked often is, well, should I wait? I wouldn't normally do this now. So should I wait to adopt 22001? And what I'm saying is absolutely not. I'm CEO of 2 SME AI safety tech companies, and I've worked across the SME clusters across the world for the last 14 years. And as companies, we need to demonstrate our use of responsible AI approaches. We can use that to demonstrate how we can win business. We can use it as a differentiator to differentiate our companies for that ultimate trust that we're looking for out of this technology. But also the other thing that I found these controls useful for is we can look at it as part of our own continual improvement process. We're all on this journey today. This is not the end of the journey, this is the start of the journey, which is why 42001 is the umbrella for what you need to do. Another question, which is quite a common one, is, really, can I pick this up, Jackie, and can I actually run with it? Well, yes, you can. It's very high level. So as an SME, you can use it to start, and that's often where many SMEs are with this, to start or to enhance any of your responsible AI journey. So for many, you will pick this up and you will say, okay, well, we haven't done any of this journey that anybody's talked about today. Let's use 42001 to start that journey. From Flying Binary's point of view, we've used it to say, well, we've got so far in our responsible AI journey. What can we bring from 42001 to enhance that journey, to solidify what we're doing, and in a more maintenance role? So wherever you are in your journey of adoption of AI, creation of AI, I think it's useful. And yes, you can pick up and run with it, and yes, you can do that now. However, I do need to say, as an international AI standards team, we've recognised that SMEs will need additional guidance, which is both accessible and practical, because it is a complex landscape. Responsible AI is something that we have been introducing as an international standards team over the last 7 years. And we've also, as an international standards team, started to work on producing a handbook to accompany 42001. So if you pick 42001 up now, you're prepared for our next steps. You've started your journey. And we will talk a little bit later about the opportunity this standard helps you unlock for AI. But it's really important from an SME journey point of view that you can create and navigate what is increasingly an AI-driven business environment. So the reality of it is, if you pick it up now, you're positioned to do that very thing. So I've made that as short and sweet as I can, Gavin, and very much address the questions SMEs are sending to me today.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. That's fantastic to get all those different viewpoints from the Art1 panel as well. So we've had quite a few questions, and just to reiterate, thank you very much for answering those questions, everyone, today. That's really great and hopefully useful. And we have had some questions delivered live during today. So just to direct this one firstly, Adam, so there are multiple definitions, 40+ of what fair is. Is there a danger of developers ticking a box by using one of these definitions incorrectly that doesn't ultimately produce a fair outcome for users of the society? If you agree this is a risk, how can this standard explicitly address this problem of broad, numerous definitions?
So I think generally there is, but I don't think 42001 tries to define fairness or focuses on it. And the reason for that is its fairness is characterized by the effect of an AI system upon society, groups of people, and individual people. And it's not possible to guarantee universal fairness. It's a concept that's complex, contested, contextual, and varies wildly across generations, geographies, and cultures. So standards haven't generally focused on the word fair. And my experience with this typically comes from the bias projects that I've been leading in ISO IEC, where we spent quite a lot of time on this, and we decided to fully separate the concept of unwanted bias and fairness, because fairness is so specific to the organization's context and objectives that we shouldn't couple them together. There are legitimate reasons why unfair systems may be justified, and there's no way you can decide on fairness with a box ticking exercise.
Okay, thank you very much. If we can go to a second
Gavin,
question.
is it?
Oh, sorry,
Gavin,
yeah,
can I just jump in there as well? Yeah.
Yes,
So I think, as Adam mentioned, that fairness is a business objective. I'd agree with that. What 42001 allows you to do is determine through a risk assessment, but also through an AI system impact assessment, any potential for there to be discrimination or an aversion to fairness, right, or unfairness. And as a result of identifying impacts to individuals, groups of individuals, or society, but also risks that then arise as a result of those impacts, you're able to then determine various risk treatments, including organizational or technical measures, and so technical measures that are applied directly to the development or the use of AI systems in order to uphold that fairness objective.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a very, very helpful question and set of answers for that as well, because of the tick box concept when it comes to standardization. It's an area that I think the standard certainly promotes, I won't say discussion, but certainly sort of frameworking around that idea. Did anyone else want to come in on helping to answer that question at all before I go to a second question? No, okay. So Adelative, just to highlight yourself on this one, thank you. Good AI often relies on quality data and information, feeding it to enable better decision making. Does the standard highlight the importance of quality data and information?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a very good and concrete question to make the link between the standard as high level and overarching one and concrete requirements, technical requirements for AI systems. Yes, indeed, the 40001, as already mentioned and clearly described, sets a number of controls and best practices, and among them the fact that we need to have some appropriate data management and governance within the organization. So based on that, we can say that the organization should set up the right processes, put the right requirements, use the right tools in order to manage data quality and govern it. And for that, there are other standards that tackle all these aspects very precisely and clearly. And I would mention here mainly the 5259, the ISO 5259 series about data quality. That is a series of standards of, for the moment, at least 4 or 5 parts dealing with the definition of data quality, the measurement, how to measure data quality, the requirements that for organization on data quality, and the processes to establish. So this example shows exactly the link between this overarching standard as management system and specific technical aspects related to AI systems. Yeah.
Okay, did anyone want to add to that at all?
Yeah, if I may. So I think that was a really good answer. I can't add much to it, but I would draw the audience's attention to the appendices, which sets all the control objectives for quick reference, and how this issue is documented in the standard. It's under resources for AI systems, and it's really encouraging the organisation to identify and document the source of data, but also the whole standard, because it's a holistic standard. If there are issues with that data, the control mechanisms, the monitoring and the review processes in place should pick up, in theory, any issues with that data. So you're not just sort of firing data in and forgetting about it. It's actually encouraging a total whole company, whole system, holistic approach to this.
Great. Thank you very much. So if we can move to a third question from the audience today. So as a management system standard, is VS ISO 42001 based on the Annex SL high level structure and common text used across most of the familiar management system standards? And if so, please comment on your experience of how easily SMEs have been able to understand and use the standard, given that it is sometimes suggested that the language of standards can be a barrier to adoption by SMEs. Jackie, if you'd like to go ahead on that one, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. Great question, because one of the things that I focused on in the remarks I made was why now? Should we do it now? Because there is often a delay, and usually not even at a launch event would we have this conversation. But 42001 is different. I do accept that the language of standards can be a barrier to adoption, not just by SMEs. Adoption is the part of the cycle we have to do more support of, and as folks that have worked on doing this, adoption is part of our focus when we create the standards. But the reality of it is many SMEs have taken control-based standards as part of their adoption of their growing their businesses. They have done that in order to answer procurement requirements of clients, and they've done it in order to standards are an enabler for SMEs and actually allow them to level the playing field for larger companies. And the fact that SMEs, we're generally more agile, we're very much focused on particular outcomes, we often work collaboratively. Standards have often been that enabler. This one is different though, because we have an evolving AI industry that is clearly going to change the way we do our work. And so I am advocating that that this is adopted now, in terms of looking at what you already have, using it to challenge what you have. The language, yes, it conforms to management system standards, but the annexes and some of the controls we've talked about today will allow you to get into that next level of detail. It's not going to be the end. As I say, we're already looking at additional guidance in the form of a handbook, but don't delay. Look at this now. This is the start of your responsible AI journey if you haven't made it. If you've already taken the responsible AI journey, like I say, Flying Binary has, it's a way of looking at the maintenance of what you do and how you focus on the future of what you might do for responsible AI.
Does anyone else like to come in on that one at all? I had a thought as well, and I think that this will lead on. Go ahead, yeah.
Yes, sorry, quickly. I think that this question about somehow the implementation of 40001 and somehow some issues like the language or the complexity comes from time to time. I would say that this is normal because we are just at the beginning. We are in the launching webinar for that. So that's normal. There is some time for digestion and understanding. And as Jackie mentioned, there is a lot of effort to build an ecosystem, to build complementing documents and standards like handbook for SMEs and others to make things clear and easy to implement. But very important to mention here is suppose that we don't have these standards. This is the question, the main question, how to tackle this is we know that there is a key and real, let's say, problem or aspects of AI. AI brings a lot of benefits, but also risks and we have to deal with its risks and kind of issues. And adopting such standards, and that is kind of giving the roadmap, the plan how to tackle responsible AI, is the key point from this one. It may seem at the beginning is a little bit complex to understand, etc. But once you've done the work, you really set the path, and it makes it very easy for you after that. So you have to look at it from this side. What if you don't have these standards? What it will cost you really? And I think the cost will be in that case very, very high. So we should look at it from this perspective and all the cost reduction that this standard will bring, and also the opportunities of growth that it will bring, since by getting some responsible AI, you bring trust to the market with your partners, and really you open the door for more growth. So I think the question should be looked globally to be more optimistic and more realistic. Thank you.
That's fantastic. And I think there's something I wanted to ask you, and it ties into one of the questions we've had. The generation and creation of this standard was not done in a bubble. The standard is international, and the groups of people, and you can see on this call, we do have those SMEs represented, who, in terms of the people who've actually written that. The question we had as well, just to follow on from that, is which countries, so NSB, so national standards bodies, were most active in the development of this standard? Milan, I was just wondering if you would be able to just to talk to that piece at all.
Sorry, could you just repeat the question again, Gavin?
Yeah, of course. So it leads on to the development of the standards. So which countries or national standards bodies were most active in the development of this standard?
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's clearer. The development of the standard really was a multinational effort with assigned experts from multiple national standards bodies. It was the inception of it was an idea from the Canadian National Standards Body, and we had to go through the quite stringent process of initiating a management system standard. So firstly, to go through a justification study that was initiated by Canada together with the new work item proposal. The active countries involved stem from the United States. We had active participation from the UK, Canada, as I mentioned, Ireland, Germany, Australia, Japan were very much involved, and have a deep interest in the implementation of AIMS in Japan. Folks from China also provided some input. We also had input from various organizations who have particular interests, for example, consumer policy, as stakeholders into the SC42 Standards Committee. France as well, as another major contributor.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for providing that context. I'd like to direct this question at Pauline, if that's okay. So the risk approach could be very different depending on the market. Is there not a risk to apply ISO 42001 too early for harmonization of these risk approaches? So for example, risk sets are high for broad category products in the AI Act, and different risks levels exist in the Medical Devices Regulation 217/745.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question, and it opens the opportunity to differentiate 42001 from domain specific risks that are determined in MDR, for example. And what I would say about this is that 42001 provides a master plan for the entire organisation. And that master plan does set out the governance and accountability, and in particular the risk context for the organisation, and it encourages the organisation to look at its internal risks and the external risks. And we touched on that earlier, but that external risk is coming from the regulatory requirements, and the organisation is encouraged to continually monitor those risks, and where there are domain specific risks identified and particular standards that govern those risks. And EU AI Act is a really good example whereby these particular use cases and types of AIs have to be categorized according to risk, which is a challenging activity in its own right. But those plug into the overall system. So to answer the question, I don't think it's too early. You can implement 42001 now because it's a system-wide, company-wide, cross-functional standard that prepares the organisation for the use of multiple AIs. And there may be silos of AI use within that organisation depending on the functions. They may all be different. So it does embrace that and provide sufficient scalability to plug in different regulations, different standards, and so on.
Okay, thank you very much. Did anyone else want to come in on that at all?
Yeah, I could jump in and just mention, and so thank you, Pauline, for mentioning those external issues that are considered as part of the context of the organization and effectively shape the risk considerations. It just demonstrates the flexibility of AIMS as a standard. And, you know, the other point really is that you have to perform a risk assessment, and so thereby you determine what those risks are to your organization through that activity, doing the risk assessment, identifying risks, but also informing those risks through AI system impact assessments on various stakeholders from different perspectives as well.
Thank you very much, Milan. That will bring us to a close for the questions today. Please do note that we will be following up the webinar with some answers to your questions. I'd just like to say, so we have a quote from Sebastian Thrun, CEO of Udacity in the States, stated, "Nobody phrases it this way, but I think that AI is almost a humanities discipline. It's really an attempt to understand human intelligence and human cognition. The AI conversation is a conversation that needs to be ongoing in order to develop the very real opportunities being sought and already seized the world over. What is clear is that with 42001, for example, you will have a practical first step to take for those seeking to use AI responsibly, with a long-term opportunity based on trust not being missed. PwC research shows global GDP could be up to 14% higher in 2030 as a result of AI alone, the equivalent of an additional $15.7 trillion. This makes it the biggest commercial opportunity in today's fast-changing economy, and 42001 will directly address this opportunity. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and please contact us with any questions you might have. We look forward to working with you on the next stages in developing our standards to help lead on this forthcoming trillion-dollar opportunity for our global future." Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you all.
Just to follow up, we do have the upcoming webinar as on your screens for Bridge AI, AI standards, benefits and support for SMEs. Thank you very much.